In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Fallacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. Today I have the Biohackers babe here, Renee and Lauren Sambataro. That's Italian, no?
Yes, I love the pronunciation. Good job. That's fabulous.
Yeah, let's shift to Italian now. We can speak Italian then.
I wish. There is none. Not even un poco.
No, ma come no?
A little Espanol, but no Italiano.
But the name is Italian, correct?
Yep. The name is
Bataro.
Italian. Yes.
Okay.
Sicilian to be exact.
But your father, if I remember well, his name is Gene. But
correct. With a G, not a J. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's it was his real name, or it was Giovanni or Gianni?
Eugene.
Yeah.
Eugene. Yeah, which I don't know. I don't think that's very Italian, but his middle name is Anthony.
Okay.
Right.
Antonio? Yeah. Okay.
Came from our great grandfather. Yeah.
Okay.
We had Julian, Antonio, Sambataro.
All the mafia out there, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the vowels at the end.
All the vowels.
Lots of vowels.
I better keep my language.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm so happy to have you. We've been talking about having you on this podcast for a long, long time. And every time it's just like we bump into each other in those biohacking conferences and congress. And everywhere we go, we see each other and go, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Finally, I think it was at Ratfest where we said, now we do it. And
yes, thank you for that. Yeah, I think you texted me and you said, let's get this booked. And same thing, we got you booked. You're coming on our show really soon. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I think that the biohacking community is growing very, very fast. But before we go into that, why don't you introduce yourself? Because I'm going to do a very, very poor job if I do that. So... Who wants to start?
Sure.
I can jump in first because I'm the big sister. I'm like the bossy one. So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm 2 years older than Renee, and we grew up in a health-centered family. As you mentioned, our father, who is a biological dentist, we called him the OG biohacker. So we grew up around a lot of curious mindset, N of one experimentation, and some cool biohacking tech. So we've been exposed to this for a very, very long time. And he runs a biological dentistry practice. And our mom is a holistic hygienist. Oh. So it's all in the family. And as you probably know, we go to all these conferences together. We're like the weirdo family. That's our family vacation. We go to health conferences. We love it. And yeah, so we grew up kind of being exposed to this, but we did grow up in the 80s and 90s. We were eating a ton of processed foods, fruit snacks, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, cereal, all the stuff. We survived, but we grew up dancing. So we were very much in our bodies and aware of the need to take care of our bodies. I then went to New York to become a dancer. I went to school for dance and then started dancing with companies and got into the musical theater world. So I performed on Broadway.
Yeah, I saw you there.
Yeah. So just like wanting to up level and take care of my body. I became a personal trainer as a way to learn more about my physical body and make sure that I could prevent injuries. And that spiraled into me wanting to learn more and help my clients more. I realized that the gym was not the only piece of the puzzle. No. I could only take people so far. So got into health coaching. And along the way, I kind of had my own health challenges. I ran into some burnout because I was living the New York City rat race and burning.
The best biohacking city in the world, yeah.
All the candles, burning all the candles. And so I actually had to take a pause and step back from some of my jobs, plural. I was working multiple jobs, which why is more better? I don't know, but that's what we're kind of conditioned to think in a city like this. and got into some lab testing. And that just opened such a massive window for me at looking into the personalization of a body, understanding that we can personalize our food, our supplements, our exercise, our sleep. And then I became the guinea pig, which is really cool. And, we had that foundation from our dad, this curious mindset that was always experimenting and willing to listen and continue learning. So, and then Renee and I kind of circled back and ended up doing the same thing where we're both health coaching. So we're like, we got to do this together. Started a podcast, even though she's on the other side of the country. And we had a slightly different route. So I'll let her tell you her story. But
thank you. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Please,
well, so I also had my own health challenges. So similar story. I actually went to Florida for my undergrad to study international business and ended up graduating and just getting really sick. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and traditional medicine had no answers for me, which I know this is a pretty typical story for biohackers in this community. They said, they said, your labs are normal. We don't know why you're so tired. Just keep sleeping. That was their only answer, sleep more. And,
give you a pill to sleep better.
Yeah. Or here's an anti-anxiety med or an antidepressant. And I was like, that's not what I'm looking for. So that led me down the journey of becoming a biohacker myself. Fortunately, we had our parents already in the field, so they were able to connect me with a lot of amazing practitioners, but there still wasn't one practitioner that could really figure out what was going on with me. I had to put all the puzzle pieces together. And it was, I had Epstein-Barr virus, I had mercury toxicity, poor circadian rhythm, poor lifestyle, poor diet, all the typical basic foundational things weren't in line. And I had to put everything together and figure out, like, how do I optimize? But it was so eye-opening to know that traditional medicine said you are normal, and I felt terrible. And
like
how many Americans
on this planet?
Yeah. And I just didn't want to accept normal as the answer. So, I ended up going back to school, got my master's in nutrition, began doing health coaching, nutrition coaching, and like Lauren said, then we came back together and we're like, let's do a podcast. And that's been 5 years in the making. Hard to believe.
200 and something. 5 years and over 200 episodes. Rocking.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it's true. And podcasts are cool. It's the way of learning today. Most people, they don't learn through book anymore. They learn through podcast. And yours is really intense and go deep into knowledge and biohackings and you got very nice guests coming to your podcast as well. One question, you got mercury toxicity with your father being a dentist. That is kind of strange. Was it coming from kids or something else?
Yeah, great question. So I fortunately never had mercury fillings, or also known as silver fillings, because our dad, with his incredible story going from being a traditional dentist to a biological dentist, he stopped placing all mercury fillings in 1985.
Whoa.
He was definitely at the forefront. I was born in 1986, so I never had a silver filling, thank goodness. But my mom and dad both had silver fillings, so we know mercury can be passed from your parents down. I also loved tuna fish as a kid. I ate canned tuna all the time. I had all the typical vaccines as a kid, which we know contain some mercury. And then actually the year that I got really sick, it was early 2007. I was kind of forced into getting a flu shot. My traditional doctor at the time said, you're going to study abroad. I think you should get the flu shot. I got that. And then 2 months later, boom, I hit the ground. And that began my health journey. So I think it was kind of an accumulation of a lot of sources. It wasn't one big thing like a dental exposure, but that shows you that probably a lot of people have mercury toxicity and don't even know it.
Probably, yes. And I don't, it's interesting to see that neither the FDA or the CDC are doing anything about it. Like they've been releasing information like, we should stop doing these type of filling. We should remove some fillings, but no one is saying the real cause of the problem. And even just like putting a big red flag on it and say, this is the cause of so many problems in our society. We have been poisoning our society. Same thing with fluoride in water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest problems is a lot of the ruling bodies are saying, well, here's the upper limit. And most people are not going over from this one exposure, but there is no governing body for all of them saying most people are getting multiple exposures. So how are we calculating that total exposure? Maybe you're just hitting the upper limit here, but we add all that up and then it's like this overload. And I think that's a huge oversight. And
you are so right. Yeah.
And there's so much more than just the mercury amalgam fillings and dentistry. Like my dad also stopped doing cavitations and root canals. And there's just so many ways that we can really affect the entire systemic body through this portal to the body, which is our mouth. And it's not just our teeth, it's our jaw structure, it's our airways, it's our tongue position. There's so many things to look at that I think we're overlooking. And it's not just for lack of education, but there's also a lot of trauma related to dentistry, right? Maybe people know about it, but they're like, oh my God, I can't stomach the idea of going back to the dentist, or I probably can't afford it. Like there's a lot of boundaries along the way. So even if we do all know about it, there's still roadblocks past that.
Yeah, we have to, when you said education, we have to point on the fact that, the nervous system is more and more known. And it's very recent that we discovered that actually from the inside of your mouth, you have connection all over the body. 10 years ago, it was not that true. We were suspecting, but traditional Chinese medicine know it since the beginning by intuition. We always just said no, it's just local, and you have nervous system going maybe on the upper body, but not further than that. Now we know that it goes up to the toe, and that's probably why it affects so badly people when you get something into your mouth.
I think it's hard to refute the energy meridians. There's so many ways that we experience this, from physical injuries to dental injuries.
And I got to work in my parents' dental practice for a long time, and I would see all the time patients would have a problem with a tooth, and we were like, why is that tooth being so problematic? And then we would go and look at what meridian or what organ it was connected to, and they're like, oh well, I'm having problems with bladder or whatever it was. And so sometimes it'd be coming from that direction, or vice versa. It's pretty powerful. And
so you worked with your father. Why you guys never thought about becoming dentists?
Oh, I've thought about it. And then I see the pictures and videos of the surgeries and things he does. I just I don't really like blood, first of all. I'm also, you really have to be an artist to be a dentist. You have to be very good with your hands. I mean, you're a surgeon as well, but doing fillings and all those, I don't have the hands-on skills that our parents do.
Because normally most when you have someone in your family that is a doctor, you want to become a doctor, or they force you to become doctor most of the time. On my side, many, I
think we like the education side, and we would love to carry on his legacy, really, and make sure that this type of medicine continues to be shared with the public and is more well known, because I think it is still a very small population. But I have no desire to be in someone's mouth.
But overall, you kept your scientific spirit in everything you do. Even if you went into the artistic side, which balanced your brain anyway, but you kept that scientific approach on everything and every single aspect of your life, because as biohackers as you are, you're using science on a daily basis, and you correct your problem by optimizing yourself using science most of the time.
How
do you get all this knowledge accumulated? Because here's the thing. There's several people that wants to be biohacker, that would dream to be biohacker like you are. But when they look at the amount of information that you need to gather, absorb, and then use as protocols on yourself, they're just like, I can't do that. It's way too much energy. What gave you the energy to get there? And
I think we're both very curious. And I think that's why a lot of people get into biohacking, and the curiosity. But maybe what's different here, and maybe this resonates with people, is we've always been kind of chasing a feeling. We had our own health challenges, and I just always wanted to feel better. And then it became, can I feel even better than that? Can I possibly feel even better than that? And, the healthier you get, the more aware you are of everything in your environment and the way that you react to things. And so it's always been less about the data, though we like hard objective data as a feedback tool and to reveal blind spots. But ultimately, I'm just trying to get my body to feel its best. And I think biohacking can be really overwhelming. So that's the mission of our podcast, is how do we simplify everything and help people to not feel overwhelmed, because there's never going to be a lack of things to do in terms of optimizing your health. I think Renee and I could probably spend 24 hours a day doing all these things, but are we truly living? We enjoy the biohacking.
I love that.
I think there's a lot more to life. So, I really like the minimum effective dose approach. There's probably always more things that I can do, but I choose to, at the end of the day, compromise based on what my personal challenges are, my willingness. I get to take this as far as I want to go.
Yeah, I am 100% with you. I'm going to comment on this in a minute after Renee. What's your point on that? Same?
I think the information isn't overwhelming when you have a very strong goal in mind. Like for me, when I had chronic fatigue, I wanted to find the energy in it. Even though I was tired, I still was like, what podcast can I listen to? What book can I read? What YouTube video can I watch? I was looking for answers because I didn't want to settle for just feeling terrible every day. So that was my drive. And now today, it's like Lauren said, could I feel even better? Oh, what is that? Yeah. What's that information? Could I feel even better? And you just kind of keep building upon it. And I never really enjoyed school as a kid. Like now I'm like maybe more on the nerdy side. Like I love reading, I love studying. But when I was a kid, I was not that way. And I think it's because I was forced to learn, I think personally, very boring things in school. But now that I found what I'm really passionate about, the learning is exciting for me.
Well, I think that learning is finding the point where you have enough interest to be attracted by what you read and can absorb. Now, how did you guys choose the right sources to make sure that you said like you listen to podcasts and things like that? Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, there's so many bullshitter out there that don't have like that of knowledge, and they're preaching based on one information, and they try to get like the hype or chasing cloud by saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, but because and this, take them out of that context and they know zero. How did you make sure that the knowledge you were absorbing was real and accurate and reproducible and on point? Did you, because so many people could die in the process. I mean, like how lucky were you not?
It's crazy. I've heard so much misinformation, and who is really to judge? I don't like who is the ultimate gold standard of the truth here. It's you can't trust Google, even ChatGPT. I don't know if it's like an inherent bullshit meter a little bit, but a huge red flag for me is always when someone is very dogmatic about something. Like it is absolutely this one way. And I just always have intuitively felt through experience, but even since I was a child, like it's got to be somewhere in the middle. And ultimately, if I can test this on myself, then my body gets to decide whether that's right or wrong. Because I can recognize that truth that person is sharing, maybe their truth, it's probably true for somebody else. But a lot of times it's just an intuitive feeling like, do I follow this? And if I'm kind of on board, then I'll test it for myself. And at the end of the day, my body gets to decide. And then I think just through reading and exposure to different people and
then
thoughts, I found kind of the people that I really trust. And I just like lean into them really hard. Someone like Paul Chek, I trust the man because he has been through it. He has worked with endless people. And when he speaks, it makes sense to me. I think that's kind of the check-in we always have to do. Like, does this feel right in my body and my heart and my soul? Does it make sense to me? I think a lot of us bypass that and they just go, well, the expert said this. Now I have to start taking this supplement. The expert said this. I got to do this biohacking protocol.
But because science is like that, they make studies on a certain amount of people. They release information by publication and they say, okay, this works on 1,000 people or like 500 people, blinded trials and stuff like that. Double blinded. And at the end of the day, you realize that a year later, it was not that accurate because of this and this. Like you said, I agree on that. We are all unique snowflakes, and what works for one doesn't work for the other. And you guys are what we consider the early adapters, like the people that are willing to try. But in our world, there is not many like you guys, like not at all. So many are just like, I'm not going to take that. I don't know what's going to be the effect, or are you sure? And even
I'm like that a little bit, but I'm still like, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Are you like that too, Renee?
Yeah, definitely the willing to experiment that gives you more options of things to try. But I also think when you're looking for who to follow, I like to hear from people that are talking about like the free lifestyle biohacks first. Like, of course, if they're selling some kind of gadget device or whatever, that's great. Maybe that works. But are they talking about the free foundational things as well?
Yeah.
Because you know that they're not making money off of that. And I just feel like that adds a lot of trust.
Nope.
And then, for like Paul Chek to you is probably like Ben Greenfield to me. I found him a very long time ago, and he has worked with thousands. Yeah. He's worked with thousands of clients. I think that's another thing is you can learn so much by working with patients or clients. And I think that has been huge for Ben.
Yeah. You know what? To be honest, at the beginning, and Ben knows that, I didn't like Ben too much because he was selling his product so much. But in the last 2 years, I love the boy because of his spiritual approach, the connection he has with the family, the music and everything. And he's more and more grounded. And he became, I think, one of the best biohacker out there. He's not preaching for money only. He's preaching for what he believes in. Of course, it's a business, it's his life. But now I like the guy. Actually, we are talking about him jumping into our board. So to the point that I like that guy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
That's exciting.
I would just agree with Renee. Like his one-on-one coaching experience is so valuable because we can read the research all day long. But if you don't have that experience working with a real live person through their own health challenges and preferences, there's a lot of podcasts and public thought leaders out there that are just reporting on the science. You hear that, you're like, that doesn't actually work when you put it into practice, And I think both are valuable. We have to hold both. And Paul Chek and Ben Greenfield are great examples of that. They've been in the trenches with people for a very long time. I
agree so much on that. And I jump back to what you said before, trying by yourself and getting tracker feedback loop and all these things. I was speaking this weekend about something that really grabbed my heart deeply is I'm a biohacker for about 10 years, hardcore. I've been hardcore, and probably for my entire life, a biohacker. But recently, in the last year, I shifted completely my approach because I felt that extreme biohacking was creating some sort of anxiety, as the same anxiety we find in our society. And by opening our mind to, we are the early adapter. Like I said before, we try things, we test it. And especially, I try everything. I don't care about the consequences. So it's even deeper. But now I realize that there's so many people out there that would never try. And on a study that I'm using in my speech, realize that people that are not extreme biohacker, but using what you said before, common sense and natural stuff, actually live longer. They have about 10 years longevity added to their lives. So if a biohacker ends, like I have a study that 2 women, 2 twins, identical, same city and everything, the extreme biohacker, because of the oxidative stress that was generated by the trackers and biofeedback and routine, extreme and intense, expectancy was 92. What we call the lifespanner, 102.
Wow.
So we realized that living naturally is probably one of the best avenues for the future.
I mean, I would love to see all of the variables in that experiment to really tease it apart. But that's something that I always come back to. Paul Chek is so against data wearables. He is like, no one should be wearing a tracker. Your body should just know what your HRV is, what your heart rate is, what your sleep. And I kind of agree, but I think our society has conditioned us so well to not be in tune with these signals. So for a lot of people, we do need to reveal the blind spots. But I also think we should not be on these trackers forever. Like, can we get in there, get the information,
learn,
and get off of them?
Correct. I don't wear
Maybe check back in. None.
Yeah. None.
Amazing.
None. Zero.
That's great.
Honestly.
Amazing.
You know why? Here's the thing. To my opinion, when you have a tracker, like you give a Fitbit to someone, is going to take the Fitbit. The first things is going to go like, oh, I did 10,000 steps today. The day after is going to check the Fitbit. You talk to the person, oh, my heart is going up. Oh, no, I'm resting. He becomes addicted to the tool. Everything that triggers addiction should be just removed from our lives, because in our
Right,
brain, the counterintuitive effect of that goes all against the principle of biohacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
a
think it
great
depends
point.
on the personality type. I know for me, tracking my steps motivates me to get more steps. And I think having that awareness, but yeah, I think you have to be very careful about the addictive personality when you put things trackers on.
Yeah. And I will say, Lauren and I were on a podcast last week and we were asked if we had all the money in the world, what would a day look like as a biohacker? And funny enough, I don't think either of us mentioned any devices or trackers. We both said, like I said, I would move to a blue zone. I would be on the beach. I would be in the mountains. I would be eating fresh local food, maybe drinking some wine with my friends. Like that would be the dream. But I think some of the biohacking we have to do today is because I do live in Vegas. There is pollution. There are EMFs. There's things that I'm trying to overcome. But if we could just get back to what our ancestors did with like ancestral hacking, that would be the dream.
Yeah, I do agree. It's like finding your ikigai, like they say in the blue zone stuff, but it's so true. Actually, this is where I am today, at that point in Miami. Honestly,
What is your ikigai?
I found it like a year ago. I moved to Miami and I just reached out to probably the highest state of happiness and zenness I've been in my entire life. So
Amazing.
And I don't know, it's just like nothing affects me, nothing touches me, and I'm doing what I love. I'm talking to people like you. I'm sharing knowledge with others. I try to make this world better, trying to build up a legacy about the transformation of biohacking into. You remember that I've created lifespanning. Into lifespanning. Because the root of what was created by biohackers is what you have done. And this is the beauty of what we can offer to the world today. There's 8 billion people looking for improving their lives. So we need to share. And you are one of the best source of knowledge out there. Yeah.
Right back at you. Right back at you. Yeah, thank you.
So you guys can move to Miami. There is this space here.
Oh, I'm happy to move to a warmer climate. I know I don't love the humidity, but I am trying to get out of New York because, I would like. So on that podcast last week, my answer was I want to just close my computer and not be on Zoom and just be in nature all day long. And then I'll have to do less biohacking, right? I can just live the way our ancestors, or at least closer to the way our ancestors do. And I would like to kind of ease that for myself. And my goal is to get off of these data wearables. But I think for now, at the point that I'm in, I really do like to check in every now and then. I guess I'm curious, do you ever put them on, or you feel like wrapped and done?
Yeah, no, I'm done. You know what? I honestly, I don't wear any. I used to wear everything. And I came to the extreme point where, not bragging, but I can tell you if my blood is missing iron, for example. A month ago, I was just like, I feel there's something's wrong in my bloodstream. Somehow my performances were not at the level I used to be and things like that. And I go like, I bet it's lack of iron. I go for blood draw and analysis on spot.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great. A superpower. Most people don't have that intuitive capacity. So that's what we love to do, like helping people to build their intuition so that they can be like you, not wear the wearables. And
I think that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. But you need to go through the process. Like you said before, I think those wearables are like high value because you would never know what your HRV is if you never measured it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We need context. Yeah.
You need to wire your brain according to how you feel and then have the value to say, okay, I'm on point on that. Yeah.
This number means this. This number feels like this. That's always the best one. Like, what does that number feel like?
True.
Yeah. And it's usually just confirming things that we already know. Like, how does that hard workout impact your HRV, or that, the alcohol or the poor sleep? And it's like, it's just confirming it with the data. But I think a lot of our society wants to see the data to confirm, like, oh yeah, I did know that. I did feel that.
I didn't sleep well. Don't you know that you didn't sleep well? Yeah. No, my Oura ring told me.
Yeah. But we can easily talk ourselves out of that. Well, I don't know. I don't have the data. So maybe I did okay. I'm recovered. Sure.
I don't remember.
Yeah, my glucose isn't spiking because my sensor ran out. So the cake didn't count.
One of the best jokes you can do is like, how did you sleep? I don't know. I was sleeping.
I don't remember.
Well, when I don't remember, I'm like, that was good. Somebody asked me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, that was a good night of sleep.
Yeah. I was gone for 8 hours. Don't know where I went. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a good feeling.
when people come to see you now, it's not only your podcast because you're training them, you're educating them, correct? That's a lot of work as well. How do you manage everything?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot. You do a lot, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Part of the reason for that is that we want to educate and empower clients ahead of seeing us. I think it really requires almost kind of like these prerequisites for health, like having a broad perspective and education on what are the simple foundational free hacks that Renee mentioned that we can start doing. That way, the foundation is already laid before we come in. And then the magic at the one-on-one is like, let's get into your labs and your data and let's talk about your intuition and let's talk about how you're actually feeling. And then let's talk about your goals. So it's all just about personalization once we get the one-on-one. But the podcast, the goal is to like get people to just, it's okay. We can do a little bit less. Here's how you know what maybe like are going to be the biggest drivers or maybe just the lowest hanging fruit for you. So I think they work hand in hand really well. I think both are valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were kind of finding, clients would come to us and say sleep was their concern. And they want to know, does this sleep supplement work and this one, whatever. And we'd be like, okay, go listen to the sleep hygiene podcast and tell me if you're doing all of that first,
and then come back
and then come back. And then same thing with, diet and stress. It's like, are you doing all the free basics? And then we can get into the nuanced personalization. Yeah. But most people aren't doing the basics. So
no, it is true. But most people don't know where to start either. So that's the thing, so many people are just like willing to improve their lives, but they're just like overwhelmed all the time. And we have to put in perspective that most people are like feeling too busy to be able to start. And they say, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to do this. But we never teach them, like, one of the best trick is like go for a walk. Instead of taking your car to go to the grocery at the corner of the street, take your shoes, put them on, and it's going to be better. What's the main problem that people will come to you and say, okay, commonly, like in an average of 100 clients, what would be the main factor that they're coming to see you for?
I get a lot of weight loss resistance. Get a lot of, I've tried everything, workouts, diet, taking a million supplements.
Yeah.
Nothing's moving. And I would say secondary to that, once we kind of dig in, is stress. No time for self-care. Like, don't feel like really a lack of control over their schedule. And when we talk more, it's like more revealing, like, yeah, oh, wow, my nervous system is not recovering. It's not balanced.
Yeah. Oxidative stress, which,
well, I think, the world we live in, most people
have
too much of that. Yeah.
And I would say probably the top thing is poor digestion or some sort of digestive issue they're coming to me for. But it's like, what's on top of that?
Then. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, they have a diagnosis of, Hashimoto's or chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. And it's like, but then when we get down to it, it's like, oh yeah, well, I have gas and bloating and indigestion and I haven't gone to the bathroom in a week. And, just a lot of it comes down to like, oh, actually my digestion is terrible every day.
That's where I get to, but people present with, I can't lose weight. And then it's like, bro, your digestion kind of sucks, or your digestion could be a lot better. That is often the underlying major root cause, I would say.
So mainly is related to epigenetics in general then, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think it's actually stress management because, I mean, we have genes turning off and on all day long, and a lot of us are living in sick environments and poor air quality. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of us are not allowing our nervous system to get into rest and digest. And so we think we're choosing all these health efforts, but we're spending our time in sympathetic. So we can't digest our food. We can't metabolize. We can't absorb our nutrients. And so I think no matter what your genetic predispositions are, if someone is stressed, we're probably going to be turning on all the bad genes, right?
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. Well, and just in mindset in general, like I've seen that a lot with maybe more like type A clients. I've seen the extreme, like I'm eating the organic raw vegan diet and doing all the things. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, let's just like breathe for a second because your body's not using any of those nutrients, and then
just relax.
And then I've also seen the mindset of I've tried everything. Nothing works. I'm never going to get better.
Yeah.
And it's like, so how do we shift that mindset for people?
Very hard. That is the hardest part of trying to change the mindset of people. What's your best advice then when people come and try to manage your stress, if stress is the number one factor? What do you think people or society missed the target in the education process?
Yeah. Something that we've both felt really passionate about sharing and really encouraging in the last few years is carving out time to do less and just be. We're so focused on the to-do list.
Yeah.
No one ever makes a to-be list, right?
No.
I don't know. Anyone here make a to-be list?
Yeah.
So we just ran a challenge and we kept it very simple, but our challengers had to check off basic things: hydration, a little bit of movement, steps, sleep, and they had to complete at least 10 minutes of doing nothing every single day.
I like that.
There's always been a huge challenge for me, but if you can just get dropping and I don't know if that's New York City conditioning, go. I mean, my dad's always been very high functioning productivity, but I think that's just the way I learned the skill to be productive. I'm unlearning that and really having to consciously choose doing a little bit less. Like, can I just drop in slots throughout my day where I can just,
that's the beauty
and breath work is great, but sometimes literally just doing nothing will allow your nervous system.
You need it. You need that. You need that in your life. Your attention span is only 90 minutes for every task that we are in. So that's the circadian rhythm that you have to follow. I can spend 2 hours doing nothing. And actually it's part of my daily process, like nothing, not even listening to music, just be with yourself. It's so important. I want it actually to take you to one point is, don't you think that our society missed a target in the education process by teaching our kids how to breathe?
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
We never ask people, do you know how to breathe? No one knows, if it's nose, mouth. No one knows techniques of box breathing or 4-6 or whatsoever. But if we started to teach our kids that simple factor, I think that the stress level on this planet will drastically go down. You have a kid that is is yelling and everything. And we're just don't stop being anxious or don't be nervous. Instead of, hey, breathe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always preaching breath work, but maybe just to play devil's advocate for a second. Are you familiar with Peter Litchfield, his work?
Yeah, his work. Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, I think you're right. A lot of us don't know. What is the answer? Diaphragmatic breathing, nasal breathing. What Peter Litchfield says is that breathing is simply a behavior. It's a response to our environment. So is it really that we don't know how to breathe, or are there things in our environment that are driving this behavioral breathing, right? People increase their respiratory rate because they have to get oxygen in. So is it they have a ton of toxins in their environment? Is their gut leaky, dysbiotic, and it's causing vagus nerve dysfunction? Do they have a tongue tie, which is something that my dad does? Is the airway constricted? What are the mechanisms that are driving poor breathing behaviors? Because you're right, everyone has a different opinion on what kind of breathing we're supposed to be doing. Is it fixing the problem?
Well, I think that it's probably lowering or anxiety in some ways, but in a daily, day-to-day normal operation, I would say you breathe naturally because, as you said, response to the environment, response if your reptilian cortex is triggered or not, and then you try to survive. But I mean, if we were to tell our kids, in certain situation, you can control how you react, and instead of raising your blood flow and tension, you could actually lower everything and be more mindful.
It is a great skill. I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
And you can do it anywhere.
That's it.
Anywhere for free.
I was saying it's free.
Yeah. If it doesn't look too weird, you can breathe and no one will be like, what is that person doing?
Especially if you're doing diaphragmatic breathing, no one can really see what's going on down there. Well, and it's interesting. As ballet dancers for so long, we were trained to breathe in a very awkward way, I would say, sucking it in, chest breathing, definitely not good training. And actually circling back to just the idea of being more, I was exposed to this biohack called the light portal about 15 years ago, where it puts your body into a parasympathetic state. That's the simplest thing it does. It has crystals and binaural beats, all these things. But I went in there the first time for an hour and I had never experienced that feeling of really being in a parasympathetic state. And I didn't even know that because I had been so sympathetically driven for so long. Type A, go, 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 be productive. I got in there and I was like, my brain is turning on. I'm thinking creative thoughts. I'm happy. What is happening?
What is that?
And
I
it was
feel
just,
weird.
yeah. And it was as simple as being in a parasympathetic state. And so I can only imagine how many Americans have never really experienced what that feels like.
You think
So,
meditation could help?
yeah. And you know, a lot of people feel like, oh, I can't meditate. And it's like, even if you just sit and close your eyes for 5 minutes, maybe you focus on your breath. Maybe you let thoughts come and go, you know, whatever, but just no music, just be quiet for 5 minutes. I think that's something simple that everyone could start with.
Well, sitting quietly is really scary and triggering for a
many
lot
people.
of people.
Yeah.
If you have chaos
So maybe 2
inside of
minutes.
if
2 minutes?
inside of your mind, you may need other interventions. And maybe breath work is a better way in because we do get to calm the nervous system. You get that tool. Or maybe, you know, I'm very passionate about plant medicine. How can we rewire the brain in a positive way and engage with this medicine to start creating new pathways, or just get curious about why we're getting these feelings? Like a lot of people sit in meditation that have these traumas, and of course it's scary and your brain's going, no, don't sit quietly. This could be traumatic. It could be dangerous. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's simply like, no, you just got to practice it more and more. Like maybe there are other tools, but for me, meditation was such a game changer in my health journey. And so I'll never say don't meditate, but I think certain people need different tools to do it.
The things like tools like, this immortal bed, for example, or some other biohacking stuff that are coming up more and more, combining different technologies and making people getting into a state where they feel better. Have you tried immortal?
I did.
Renee did it. Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me a little bit of the light portal I had mentioned.
That's why that's exactly why I thought about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it didn't have PEMF or red light, but it was, like I said, crystals, binaural beats, vibration, color therapy. But yeah, and I think we have the tools, so why not use them? I love the brain tap. Like for me, it's
beautiful. Yeah.
I drop in so fast versus if I have nothing, it takes me a little bit longer to quiet the brain. So, but brain tap's not for everyone. I think you have to find what works for you. Maybe like something like the Muse. Some people want to get that feedback in real time.
Like Muse too. Yeah.
Love the birds.
Yeah.
The birds. Yeah.
That's the one I use too. Yeah. And Neurovisor is one of the other that is like impressive. Like,
you did that too.
I just did it 2 weeks ago. It was wild. You have one?
Yeah. I've been actually with Garnet, the inventor, since almost day one. So I've tried the first prototype that was different than this one. The second prototype, now like they're at the 4th or 5th version.
Wow.
They wanted to do a cyborg version of it. But it's just
that's cool.
Yeah, it's too much time involved. But I love the guy. I love where he's going with the microdosing without chemicals approach. Which is quite interesting because I think there's a lot to do with this microdosing part. I don't know if we can consider that as biohacking or not, but still, the science behind microdosing is very interesting in rewiring the brain and neuroplasticity in general, but you can do that without chemicals, so it's even better.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with how the Neurovisor is working. Is it increasing neuroplasticity?
Yes.
Is that what it's doing?
Yeah, well,
okay.
You know what he detected in his studies? He showed that in less than 6 minutes, by triggering your brain with the light pattern, so you have different patterns, circle, horizontal, vertical, and by using that combined with sounds, which are not binaural sounds, they're just like sounds, but it's sufficient. Your brain, after 6 minutes, switches in a certain mode and triggers certain connections that are not present normally. So you create those pathways, neuroplastic, puts your brain in neuroplasticity. And the effect of microdosing that you could have by using psilocybin or any other similar components is reproduced exactly with light and sound, which is fabulous. But so many people here, so I have the neurovisor for years, and I've been testing it with friends. 75% of the women that tested it didn't like it. And
Why?
I have no idea. This is something that has garnered, probably because your brain is wired more complex, in a more complex way than man. And you are way more emotional. And I think that the emotion part of it is something disturbing when you use the neurovisor. So interesting. What was your feeling when you used it?
Yeah, and I could see that. And I will say when it first started, it felt very intense. And I was like, okay, just breathe through it. And then it felt really good. And it did almost feel like a mushroom journey. But I was talking to the owner of Vitality St. Pete who let me do it. And he said some women, actually, I think he said specifically, they will rip it off within the first couple of minutes. I would almost imagine it's someone that's just got a lot going on in their head. Maybe it is just too much stimulation.
True. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it felt great. Like I was sleep deprived and I did that while I got an IV and I felt so much better. I just like rebounded with great energy.
I love it. I use it I use BrainTap, but I use it every time I have a speech or I have a meeting, and it's just like depending. And even like when I fly, I'm going to use it before like going to Europe. I know that I have 6-hour flight. I will put it on my head, and like in 12 minutes, I'm down to deep sleep, and I sleep 5 hours. I wake up and I'm there in Europe and I'm fresh. So that it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do like with the brain tap. I fly with the brain tap. I'm like, it just makes it so much easier. And I love having conversations about it. People are like, what's that thing in your head?
We look like biohackers. You can recognize them in flights. Like either they have the tongue blue or like the thing on the head.
Yeah. Always have the blue tongue on the flight. Yeah. I mean, you need it. Like flying is just so, I mean, it's toxic, it's exhausting, it's stressful. I think that's like the prime area to biohack for people.
Yeah. But normally you should be, you have the knowledge, but you should be using that with infrared at the same time to increase the efficiency.
With the methylene blue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a Theralumen bracelet.
Oh,
okay. So it's giving a little bit of infrared or red light through there, but it's helpful for traveling because obviously you can't travel with your full panel.
Can you imagine?
IV.
With your TSA, you got my life hat.
The pad, the IV, the tool, everything. Like you need a whole cabin for you. That's
as much as I want to travel with all my devices, I'm also like, well, I'm training with these things at home so that I can go be free and be without them, right? Like, do we really need to be dependent on them all the time? Again, we take a huge hit to our physiology when we travel, but isn't that why we're training and biohacking at home?
Yeah. And what is the impact when you think about it? Okay, we take a hit. It's going to be like 2-3 days in a lifetime, especially if we live 150. That's okay. We can survive.
Yeah. I guess it depends how much you're traveling. Like we all know in this room how many like famous thought leaders and biohackers travel almost every day of the year.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have to try a lot harder. I'm not traveling that much. So kind of depends on your lifestyle.
They're also crossing time zones and then landing and then having to give a lecture.
Yeah.
Or you don't have 2 days. You have to go on stage immediately. So you have to do all the biohacks.
Yeah, it's true. And we push our body to the extreme in these conditions, for sure. What do you do when you come back of this travel? What's your trick? How do you recover faster? What's your protocols?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Sleep is number one. When I come back from a trip, I know it almost seems opposite. Usually you come back and you're like thrown into the work life again, but I actually will schedule my first couple of days back to make sure I can prioritize my sleep. Maybe get in some light intensity workouts, do my brain tap, do my supplements. I like to do NAD, methylene blue when I travel, post-travel.
I'm definitely doing methylene blue when I travel. I find for jet lag, that's the thing that gets me back on track. And same, I'll lighten my load a little bit just to make sure that I can sink back into a normal schedule and be able to exercise, but maybe not too much. Kind of depends on how my recovery is.
If you want to exercise is good as long as you don't push too much after traveling. I actually go for IV right after, I fly down and straight there an IV, and it puts you like almost back on track immediately.
What do you get in your
Yeah.
IV? What do you like to do?
I have a specific cocktail that is made like with everything I want to have inside of it. Yeah, you start from
Nice.
the Myers cocktail and you add like CoQ10 and glutathione and vitamin and NAD. So the whole mix there, and it boosts you pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's a great
That's great.
idea. There's all the antioxidants, minerals,
That's it.
B vitamins.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
hydration is an issue when you travel. Even if you drink in all during your whole flight, you're going to be dehydrated anyway. So you better get back your hydration. It's key. Hydration helps you sleep as well and everything.
That might be number one in my bag when I travel is electrolytes.
Yeah.
Oh, I won't go anywhere without electrolytes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Same. And you have to have an aisle seat on the plane. That's the trick. So you can drink more water.
I'm always so mystified at the people that sit in the window seat on a 6-hour flight and they don't get up once.
Yeah.
But do you notice what they order to drink? It's always soda.
Yeah.
Which part of me, I'm like, well, it's still liquid, but I'm like, is it dehydrating them so that now they don't have to go to the bathroom for 6 hours? They're never chugging water, that's for sure.
Never chugging water, but also in the middle of the day, I'm like, how sleep deprived are you that you can sleep for 6 hours on this daytime flight? It's impressive.
That too. And they're snoring, right? Their mouth is open, they're snoring.
Yeah, you're like, here, take my brain tap.
Yeah.
To finish on this awesome moment that we are together, it's so cool. What do you guys see in the future of biohacking? I have to ask you that because I'm on this mission of lifespanning and I want to have your feedback. How do you see this biohacking? Like you see Brian Johnson now is called the biohacker. Everywhere, biohacker Brian Johnson goes against Elon. Biohacker Brian Johnson spent $3 million a year. Biohacker, blah, blah, blah. So biohacker, the biohacking movement start to get more and more attention. At the same time, start to get a great target for haters.
It's a big question.
Yeah. I don't know if it's what I'm expecting, but it's what I'm hoping is that we just keep going down the personalization route. So it's not everyone's taking the same longevity supplements and using the same biohacking devices. It's like, how do we really get to know your body and then build that trust? So we're doing a minimum effective dose. And I definitely see a movement towards more of these communities, like living in community where we can be a little more ancestral, maybe more people moving out of cities. I know I certainly want to. That's my plan.
Yeah. And, I don't know if it'll be called biohacking or lifespanning or, just in general health optimization. I definitely think it's going to grow no matter what, because there are just so many people sick and tired of being sick and tired for sure. And they're realizing traditional medicine, while yes, there are answers there aren't answers to a lot of the things that people are struggling with. And the biohacking component, it brings that bio-individuality, like Lauren said. Nice. And I think that's going to become more and more important. But then also, the ancestral community. So yes, the devices and gadgets can be a part of it, but how are we balancing that with the social connection, living in community? I would love to have a greater biohacker or lifespanning community here where I am, where we can just spend more quality time together.
Right.
Be in nature more.
Yeah. In nature, harmony and talking and sharing and loving and caring for each other. Like we lack that in the moving society, especially in New York. Like it's so speed. People have no time to even consider having a feeling for another one, except when you get into the intimacy. And this is the sadness of our world. You know what? At the end of the day, thanks God we had COVID. People woke up because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very eye-opening
too.
Yeah.
And now we have Peter Diamandis was telling me that the X Prize with this program and everything is going to change the way that we perceive longevity as well. My only concern on that is I just would love, and I'm dreaming about it, to see longevity accessible for free, not high price, or not just for the richest in this world.
Yeah, it
that
is
happen?
pretty amazing what Brian Johnson's doing, but
Yeah.
there's so many people still need so much help.
Yeah.
So many people can't even afford the basic stuff that we're talking about with nutrition, let alone biohacking devices. So yeah, I think he sets a good example, but I think our focus still has to be on helping the mass population.
The mass population, that's the thing, as I repeat, we are the early adopter of all these technologies. Now we have this gap to conquer and get to everyone, to general perception, and everyone can have access to what we have been the pioneer of. And then we have to make sure that it's understandable. But this you do it very, very well. You make like podcasts that are like so sequenced and understandable in pieces that are like, I say always, like chunkable. Like it's a small chunk, you understand it, you get it, and you move forward into the next one. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thanks for there.
And you too. Thank you for what you're providing and sharing.
Thank you, girls. It was a pleasure being with you here. You're awesome. Keep going. Keep doing what you do. And we have a mission. Yeah.
We do. We will not be stopped.
Never.
Changing the world. One podcast at a time. Well, thank you for having us. This was so overdue. It was great chatting with you, and really excited to have you on our show very soon.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.